In this video, I'm going to take you through step by step to get started investing with Trading 212. I've used the platform to invest my own money for a number of years now, and I'll show you everything I know with a few tips and tricks thrown in. Everything will be timestamped below, so feel free to jump around the video if there's a part that you want to focus on or already know. And just before we jump in, I want to let you know that this video is not sponsored and I've never been paid to make a video on YouTube. However, I do make a small commission if you ever use some of my links in the description at no cost to you. Okay, first things first, you need to get yourself an account set up. You can do this on the app itself, or you can go to their website if you want a bit of a bigger screen. If you use my link to sign up, which I'll pop in the description, you can get yourself a free fractional share worth up to £100 once you finish registration and deposit just £1. Something I'll show you how to do a bit later. Don't worry if you've already installed the app, there's a way to get your free share without the link, and I'll show you that later too. For registration, expect to put in all of your usual personal details, ID verification, including your national insurance number. This will be essential if you want to use an account like the Stocks and Shares ISA or the Cash ISA, as this is all linked up together. At this stage, you don't need to choose the kinds of accounts that you want to use, and we'll go through all of that later. But basically, you'll have access to all of the accounts from the app, and then you can have all of them open or just the ones you actually need. Nice and easy. Trading 212 actually supports quite a lot of different countries, and your app might look different depending on where you're based. Although I'm based in the UK and I'm going to be taking you through the UK app, I'll put up on screen now exactly where Trading 212 accepts new customers, just in case you were wondering. I'm not going to hold your hand through the rest of the registration. If you can spell your own name and you can use a phone, you can sign up and get an account sorted. One final thing I'll note is that you will want to make sure that you sign the W8BEN form that Trading 212 will ask you to fill out. This is vital in order for you to own US shares and prevent you from losing out on taxes that are enforced from the US onto foreign countries like ours. Basically, it reduces something called dividend withholding tax from 30% to 15% once you sign it. It takes a couple of clicks and it's done. So read that, make sure you're happy with it, and then you're good to go. Okay, once you're all set up, you should see an app which looks something like this. It might seem a bit complicated, but it's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of things. First up, if you press the button at the top here, you can switch between the types of account that are available to you. You'll have the Invest account, which is a general investing account, a Shares ISA, which is a Stocks and Shares ISA, a Cash ISA, and finally a CFD account where you can make short-term trades. We definitely won't be going on there in this video. Instead, we'll be focusing on long-term investing. Now, you can open up any of these accounts, and the first time you click on them, you may have to complete some extra details, or you'll be asked to add your bank details in order to make your first deposit. So go ahead, do all of that, verify your email, etc., and verify the rest of your details, and then we can move on. Once you've got past that, here's what everything else means. At the bottom, these buttons here will take you to different parts of the app. Starting with the home screen, here's where you can check out news, top moving stocks, and any watch lists that you are free to create. For example, if you want to see how the Magnificent Seven are doing or check out what's happening with the S&P 500, here's where you'll be able to do this. You can add your own watch list by clicking here, and then to add a company to this, you just press the plus button here and you can search for whatever you want. The next section is the button with the pie, which we'll call your investment portfolios. Here's where you'll see everything that you have invested in. You'll see the value of your investments, a chart over time, the rate of return, your cash in the account, and then a list of your investments. After that, you'll also get a nice section showing your asset allocation. This is just a fancy way of showing your investments, and it gives you an idea of what proportion of your money is where. Also on the screen is this big blue button here with the cross in the middle. Now this is a place where you can add cash into your account from your bank account or other payment methods. Now I'll cover these in a moment, so we'll leave that one for now. Next up is the search bar with this magnifying glass icon. Here are all the investments that Trading 212 offers. You can type in the search bar if you already know what you want, or you can go through all of the different categories and sections. For example, you can see what's the most traded stock currently, which stocks are brand new to the market, and then there's also a section for ETFs where you can see what's popular here too. There are thousands of investments here, so I'd always make sure to come prepared, otherwise you can easily end up very lost. I've done lots more videos on my channel to give you an idea of what things you might want to look at, like well-diversified global index funds, but more on that a bit later. Moving to the next section depends which account you're in. If you're inside your Invest account, like I am here in this video, you'll see this card icon, and this will take you to the Trading 212 debit card. Here you can see your account details, create virtual cards to spend online, add cards to Apple Pay, and even set things up so that any cashback you earn gets invested into your account. At the moment, the Trading 212 card offers a 0.5% cashback on all purchases with a limit of £20 cashback per month. I use mine as a bit of a backup card, and I've enjoyed playing around with it when it first came out. Now, just be aware that this is the invest account though, and this is not inside your stocks and shares ISA. Moving on to the next section here, we have the social page. There are 3 sections here: the feed, communities, and then pies. The feed will show all kinds of things like what conversations are the most popular and anyone talking about stocks that you're following. Communities is a place where you can join in with people talking about specific investments or companies, or usually just arguing about whether Tesla's going to go up anytime soon. And then finally, the pies section is where you'll find a place where people are sharing their investments, which you're free to copy. I'll say just to be very careful here, anyone can post anything, and just because someone has a popular pie, it does not mean that they're some kind of genius investor who knows the future. Finally, the last section of the app is all of your settings. Each account can have its own settings, so you would choose the account first, and then you would work your way through what you need to change. The key thing to note here is that this is where you can manage your cash and turn on getting higher rates of interest on any uninvested cash. Now, in order to do this, you need to click here and opt in. Now, do be aware that this does mean that cash will be put with banks and money market fund, which does count as investments. There's no financial services compensation for this. And if you don't know what that means, please make sure that you read up on that and make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. In short, it doesn't mean it's like investing into a penny stock and you're going to lose all your money, but you do just need to be aware that there is always a level of risk involved and there's no backup in case things go wrong. This is the same when it comes to investing in any stocks. Although there are rules and regulations, if a company does go bankrupt that you bought shares in, you don't get anything back. Next, Manage Funds is the page where you can deposit money, convert money from different currencies, and then also withdraw money back to your bank account. In terms of deposit options, you can either use an instant bank transfer, something I personally use, or a manual bank deposit where you would have to get the details here and then go and do this manually from your bank itself. Then finally, you have options to deposit by debit card and even Apple Pay. Note here how it does say that after £2,000 deposited through these methods, you'll get charged a 0.7% fee. So feel free to use this as a way to get a small amount of money onto the account just to test it and to get your free share. But in the long run, you're better off using the free option. At the moment, Trading 212 don't support any form of direct debit, so later on in the video, I'll show you a good way to invest regularly using a standing order from your bank account. Okay, back to the rest of the settings. Most of these are going to be obvious and I'll touch on a couple more later. However, here's another key one that will be important to ensure that you get your free fractional share worth up to £100. If you have not already received a share, you can use the code Toby right here, and then you should get your free share so long as you're a new customer, tops up at least £1 into your account, and registered within the last 10 days. Good luck with that one, and I have my fingers crossed for you that you get a decent one. Finally, a cool feature here back on the settings page is that you can actually play with a practice mode in Trading 212. You can use play money, but invest in the stock market at the real prices, just to make sure you know how everything works. If you need any help, don't forget that you can find support here as well. Okay, so I did just show you the options you have when it comes to depositing money onto the platform, but let me just show you a couple of tips on how to manage your money. First off, you can easily transfer cash you have between different accounts, and this is especially useful if you want to move some cash between your ISA accounts. As another option, you can even move cash from your Invest account into your Stocks and Shares ISA, which is something you might want to do as we start the brand new tax year on the 6th of April. So to transfer money between your accounts, just go into the settings section, choose Manage Funds, and then scroll down to the big blue button where it says Move Funds. You can then move part or all of your cash between your different accounts. Just note here that if you've maxed out your ISA allowance, you can't just move cash into it, as you can only put £20,000 into your ISAs each tax year. You can, however, transfer old ISAs to Trading 212, and this is something I'll go over a bit later. You can also transfer money between a cash ISA and a shares ISA with no issue at all. For a more in-depth video on ISAs, please see my channel where I've done a really simple guide which goes over all of the details. Also, a second tip I wanted to share here was that to set up a standing order to your Trading 212 account, you need to know your account details and where to send the money. You'll find these in the settings section. If you go to the deposit funds and then you click on your bank account, not the one that says instant transfer, you'll then get to the account details and screen for Trading 212. You would then take these details and set up a standing order from your online banking on your personal bank. Do not forget to take this reference number, which is shown here, as this will tell Trading 212 that this money is for your account and nobody else's. The reason a standing order is useful is that there is not currently a way to use a direct debit into your investing account. So this would save you from having to manually invest each month. Basically, you could set up a standing order for the first of each month, and then you would maybe set up automatic investing for the third of the fourth of the month to use that money from your Trading 212 account to invest into your pies. Something I'll show you a little bit later. It's a little bit awkward, but this is the smoothest way to do things for now, unless you're happy just doing things manually every time you want to invest. You might be one of those people who are happy just to do this and choose every week, every month, or even every day. Right, let's talk making your first investments. It couldn't be any easier, and you might get confused by some of the details if you're making your first purchase. The first step would be making sure that you have some money in your account. You can't invest with any magic money, I'm afraid. So do that first, whether it's an instant bank transfer or using something like Apple Pay. Now that this part's sorted, the next thing you can do is find something you want to invest in. So we go to the magnifying glass section of the app, and here we can browse or search for whatever we want. I'll do a couple of very simple examples here, but you should always invest in what's right for you, and remember that I am not your financial advisor. Let me pick a UK stock first, then a US one, and then finally a popular ETF index fund. So if I think of a big UK stock, AstraZeneca comes to mind. If I search for it here, I get 3 listings coming up. Here is where things might get confusing if you're picking stocks, so just be aware. As a UK investor buying in pounds, what I want is the one at the top, which is listed on the London Stock Exchange. I could buy it from other markets, but then I'll get a currency exchange fee. So let's avoid that. If I choose it, I'll then get the screen showing me all the details about the stock. I'll get the price charts, news and social updates, as well as some of the key financial information. To make a purchase, you'll need to press the big button here saying buy. You'll then get taken to the order page where we have more decisions to make. By default, you're on the market order page, but then you have limit order, stop order, or a stop limit order. Each of these is a different way to place your order. A market order will give you whatever the price is right now, or as soon as the market opens. A limit order is where you'll set a maximum price you're willing to pay. A stop order is one that triggers when you set a price above the current one. And a stop limit is when you set a price above the current price, and this converts the order onto a limit one. In all honesty, I only ever use a market order, and I think if you're just starting out, you should probably just ignore these, as trying to time the market is a fool's game. If you know what you're doing though, feel free to do whatever you want. Now, to place an order, you can either do it based on the value you want to buy or the number of shares. You can choose either one, and you can use the slider here, or you can punch in the numbers manually. So long as you have the cash in your account, you can then press review order, and then you get the final choice to review everything before moving forward. For this UK example, remember that all UK shares get charged 0.5% in stamp duty. You can see this here, and we can't get around it, I'm afraid. If you're happy, you can then press order, and you will be the proud owner of some new shares. As another note, remember that the UK stock market is only open between 8 AM and 4:30 PM on Monday to Friday. If you place an order outside of these times, then it will get queued, and it'll only get executed once the market opens. It's good to know that, just in case you're sat there on a weekend evening thinking, why hasn't your order gone through, and it just says pending. Now, for another example, let me show you what buying a UK ETF might look like. This one I'll use for an example is a very low-cost global index fund. You can search for it by looking for FWRG in the search box, and it'll be this top one here, the Invesco FTSE All World Fund. Remember, like I said before, this is just an example, and I'm not your financial advisor. Now, all of the order options are the same. However, there is some good news on UK-listed ETFs, and that there's no stamp duty to pay here. So there'll be no fees when buying ETFs on Trading 212, other than the fees of the ETFs themselves, which are already baked into the cost. If you want a few more options on these, I've done a good video going over some of my favorite ETFs where I explain what they are and how they work. It's worth watching those before moving ahead if you're a complete beginner. Just take your time, and I'm sure you'll get the hang of things soon. Okay, finally, let me quickly show you what it's like to buy a US listed share. Why don't we choose something like Apple, the largest company in the world? If I find Apple here, go to buy some shares, and then review my order, you'll notice that there is an FX fee to pay, as I need to get Trading 212 to convert my pounds into dollars in order to execute this trade. This is charged at 0.15% above the current rate, which is very competitive compared to other platforms, but do just be aware of this. Anyway, that's how simple it is to buy individual shares. One thing worth saying here too is that Trading 212 supports something called fractional shares, which is really useful when you're an investor, especially with smaller amounts of money. You might notice here how the price of one share of Apple is actually around $200 at the time of making this video. However, I can invest as little as £1, and this is only possible because Trading 212 allows fractional share buying. Not everyone does this, and most of the older platforms force you to buy a whole share, which means saving up a lot more before you can get started. You can get fractional shares on all of the investments they offer, which is super useful in my opinion. Now, let me show you how to invest regularly using the Pies feature and Autoinvest, which is probably the most important part of the app. Right, so in order to regularly invest using Trading 212, you need to use something called a pie. Basically, a pie is just like a mini portfolio, and you can have as many as you like, and inside of them, you can make your investing as simple or as complicated as you like. To make one yourself, you just go to your portfolio section in your app, which, funny enough, looks like a pie already, then press New Pie, and you'll be given a couple of different options. Firstly, there are some model ones that have been designed by Trading 212's investing partners. Secondly, you have some from the community, and then finally, you can choose to make your own. Like I said earlier, just be careful with anything made in the community, as anyone can make a pie here, and it should really only be you deciding what you invest in, not some random dude you've never heard of, including me. So let's do a custom pie and make it really simple. We press Add Instruments, and then the music starts playing. All we need to do now is choose what investments we want inside our pie. We can add just one thing inside here, or we can do dozens. It's up to you to decide, as always. Let me just pick two funds to give an example. A developed world ETF and an emerging markets ETF, both from Vanguard. And I know lots of you out there use these ones already. All you do is search for what you want and press the add button here. It will then appear on the bottom, and once you're happy, you can proceed with the blue arrow. On the next page, you choose your weight. So in other words, what percentage of your money do you want to be invested in each? For this example, I'm going to leave it 50-50. Then click Next, and now here is where you can choose to set things up with an automatic payment or a manual one. Let's choose Autoinvest, and on the next screen, we can play around with how we want to invest. You can choose the amount you want to invest and how often you want to do it, as well as self-balancing or by targets. Give those a read to decide what you want. Then I'm going to choose monthly investing to place an order on the first of each month with £100. When you get to the payment section, in order to set things up with a standing order, you choose Use Free Funds. This will take money from your cash in the account and use it to place your order. As a top tip here, I'd make sure that any standing order I set up going into Trading 212 is set to arrive a couple of days before the date that I'm getting my auto investment sorted. You never know that over a weekend or a bank holiday 1 month might cause you some kind of issue. Now, if you don't want to use a standing order, you can always manually deposit each month or however often you want to invest. That really is up to you. Other than that, it really is as simple as those few steps. Automatic investing is done through pies, and if you want to pick anything manually, you can do it using a pie or just outside of one. It's really all up to you. If you want to transfer investments from other platforms, maybe you have an old stocks and shares ISA or even a cash ISA, you can easily do this with Trading 212. Just open the app, go to the Settings tab with those 3 lines, scroll to Portfolio Transfer, and then follow the simple instructions to get things moving. What you usually need to provide is the name of the platform or provider that you're moving from, a reference number or account number, and a rough amount of money that they're holding for you that you want to transfer. Also, Trading 212 is rolling out something called in-specie transfers for most people, which means that you can actually transfer your investments themselves and not just the cash in your account. This means you won't have to sell your old investments before sending them over, and you'll still have the history from when you made your initial purchases. So for example, let's say you had 10 Nvidia shares in an old ISA from Hargreaves Lansdown. If Hargreaves offers it, Trading 212 will request that they just send over your shares without selling them. Transfers should take less than 30 days, so just be aware they aren't instant and won't arrive the next day. As a top tip, you can transfer your old ISAs to Trading 212, and this will not affect your allowances for the current tax year, so long as those ISAs are from previous tax years. This applies to pretty much any online investing app, by the way, and I've done this in the past to clean up my own accounts so I don't have investments all over the place. Let me quickly just mention the Cash ISA here. This is an account that you can easily open on the app, and it will get you one of the highest rates of interest currently available. Any money held in the ISA will accrue interest daily, and then you'll get paid out monthly, which is similar to getting interest on uninvested cash. Now, the benefit of the Cash ISA is that your money is protected up to £85,000 per person, and this is backed up by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. In the event of anything going horribly wrong, any amount of money under £85,000 will come back to you in a very short time. I personally don't use a Cash ISA as all of my money is invested using the Stocks and Shares ISA. However, if I were to have one, this is the place I would keep my money. Okay, I hope that's been a useful guide. I know I've not been able to cover all the small details. If you do think of any questions, feel free to leave them below in the comment section. And also check out the other videos on my channel. I've gone into a lot more detail in other videos, especially around explaining exactly how ISA accounts work and how to choose investments which are going to work out for you. Anyway, good luck out there and happy investing.